What would you do if the only way to save an Apache woman's future was to offer her marriage? In this unforgettable Wild West story, one cowboy's unexpected promise changes two lives forever, but the town will do everything to tear them apart. Watch till the end, and don't forget to like, subscribe, and share for more powerful Western stories. Samuel Hayes had never imagined that years of hard work could disappear so quickly. His ranch in Montana Territory had survived harsh winters, cattle diseases, and dangerous outlaws. But the terrible drought of 1886 was different. Day after day, the fields turned brown, the river shrank, and the cattle grew weaker. Every coin Samuel earned went toward keeping the ranch alive, yet he still found himself surrounded by unpaid bills. Despite his own struggles, he remained a man known for honesty and kindness. The neighboring settlers respected him because he never took advantage of those who were suffering, even when his own future looked uncertain. Just beyond Samuel's property stood a small wooden cabin where Ayana lived with her younger brother Nantan. After losing their parents, the two siblings depended entirely on each other. Unscrupulous traders had convinced their family to sign unfair agreements years earlier, taking valuable horses and supplies while leaving behind impossible debts. Since then, Ayana had worked from sunrise until sunset, sewing leather clothing, gathering herbs, and selling handmade crafts in nearby towns. She never complained, even when people treated her unfairly because she was Apache. Her quiet strength and determination impressed Samuel every time he saw her walking the dusty trails. Every morning before beginning work on his ranch, Samuel noticed Ayana carrying heavy bundles of firewood or buckets of water from the distant creek. She always kept her head high despite the hardships surrounding her. Her younger brother tried to help, but he was still too young to carry the responsibilities resting on his sister's shoulders. Samuel often wanted to offer assistance, yet he feared she would see it as pity rather than kindness. Instead, he quietly left extra sacks of grain near her cabin during difficult weeks, pretending they had been delivered by mistake, so her pride would remain untouched. One afternoon, Samuel rode into the nearest trading town to purchase supplies for his ranch. While speaking with the store owner, he overheard two debt collectors discussing Ayana's family. They laughed cruelly, claiming that if the money wasn't paid within the month, they would seize the cabin and everything inside it. Samuel felt anger rising inside him. He knew the debt had been created through dishonest business, yet the law favored written contracts instead of fairness. As he rode home beneath the setting sun, the thought of Ayana losing the only home she had refused to leave his mind. That evening, the sky glowed orange as Samuel tied his horse outside Ayana's cabin. He paused for several moments, wondering if he was making a terrible mistake. He respected Ayana deeply and didn't want his offer to sound like a business deal or an act of control. After taking a deep breath, he knocked gently on the wooden door. Ayana welcomed. Impolitely, surprised to see her quiet neighbor standing there, Nantan sat near the fireplace repairing an old saddle, while the smell of fresh cornbread filled the small room. The simple home reflected dignity, despite having very few possessions. Samuel removed his hat and spoke honestly without hiding behind complicated words. He explained that he had learned about the debt collectors and understood how unfairly her family had been treated. Then, looking directly into Ayana's eyes, he quietly said, "I'll clear every debt you owe if you become my wife." Silence filled the room. Ayana stared at him in complete disbelief, convinced she had misunderstood. She had heard stories of wealthy men forcing desperate women into unwanted marriages, and for a brief moment she feared Samuel's proposal was no different. Her expression changed from surprise to cautious suspicion. Ayana slowly stood and folded her arms, studying Samuel's face for any sign of deception. "Why would you marry someone everyone in town looks down on?" she asked calmly. Samuel answered without hesitation, He admired her courage, her honesty, and the way she had sacrificed everything to protect her younger brother. He told her he wasn't offering charity or buying a wife. He wanted a true partner who would stand beside him through every hardship, just as he promised to stand beside her. His words were sincere, yet Ayana knew that trust could never be built from promises alone. Nantan quietly watched the conversation, sensing how important the moment was for both adults. He had seen many strangers make promises before, only to disappear when life became difficult. Samuel noticed the boy's uncertain expression and assured him that nothing would happen unless Ayana freely agreed. He would never force either of them into a decision. Those simple words eased some of the tension inside the cabin. For the first time, Ayana realized Samuel wasn't trying to rescue her because she was weak. Instead, he genuinely respected her strength and believed she deserved a future built on dignity rather than fear. After several long moments of silence, Ayana walked to the window and looked toward the fading sunset stretching across the Montana hills. She knew accepting such an offer could change her entire life, yet refusing might leave her family homeless within weeks. Finally, she turned back toward Samuel and spoke softly. "I cannot answer tonight. Give me 3 days." Samuel nodded without argument, placed his hat on his head, and quietly left the cabin. As he rode home beneath the stars, he wondered whether those 3 days would bring hope, heartbreak, or a future neither of them had ever expected. During the 3 days that followed Samuel's proposal, the quiet valley became filled with whispers. News traveled quickly across the Montana frontier, reaching ranches, trading posts, and even distant camps. Some settlers claimed Samuel had lost his senses, while others insisted no respectable cowboy should marry an Apache woman. The gossip grew louder with every passing hour. Men who had once shared coffee with Samuel now questioned his loyalty, and women exchanged doubtful glances whenever Ayana passed through town. Neither Samuel nor Ayana answered the rumors, believing that truth would eventually speak louder than careless words. Samuel continued working on his ranch as though nothing had changed. Before sunrise, he repaired broken fences, cared for his weakened cattle, and searched for fresh grazing land. Inside, however, he carried the weight of uncertainty. He knew Ayana had every reason to distrust him, and he refused to pressure her into making a decision. Love, in his mind, could never be built on fear or desperation. Even if she rejected his proposal, he had already decided to help her family. Keeping his word mattered more than protecting his pride or winning the approval of judgmental neighbors. Meanwhile, Ayana faced a different kind of struggle. Every trip into town brought cold stares and whispered insults. Some people claimed she wanted Samuel's money, while others believed she was using him to escape poverty. She ignored every cruel remark and focused on caring for her younger brother, Nantan. At night, she sat outside their cabin watching the stars, wondering whether trusting Samuel would lead to happiness or heartbreak. Her parents had always taught her that character mattered more than promises, and she knew only time could reveal the truth hidden within a person's heart. On the second day, Samuel rode quietly to the trading office where Ayana's debts were recorded. Without announcing his intentions, he placed a pouch of hard-earned savings on the clerk's desk and requested that a large portion of the debt be paid immediately. The clerk stared at him in disbelief before writing an official receipt. Samuel refused any recognition and simply asked that the payment be recorded honestly. As he mounted his horse and rode away, he felt no pride. He had acted because it was the right thing to do, expecting nothing in return. Later that afternoon, Ayana visited the office to discuss another payment schedule. The clerk handed her the receipt, explaining that someone had already cleared much of what her family owed. Shock spread across her face as she recognized Samuel's signature. She had never asked him for proof of his intentions, yet he had fulfilled part of his promise before she had even answered him. Tears filled her eyes, not because of the money, but because she realized Samuel had helped without demanding gratitude, affection, or commitment. For the first time in years, hope quietly replaced the fear she carried every day. That evening, Ayana walked alone toward the old cottonwood tree, overlooking the valley, the place where settlers often watched sunsets after long days of work. Samuel was already waiting there, standing quietly beside his horse as the golden light stretched across the hills. When she approached, neither of them spoke immediately. The silence felt peaceful rather than uncomfortable. Finally, Ayana looked directly into his eyes and said softly, "If I become your wife, it will be because I choose you, not because of money or debt." Samuel smiled gently, grateful that her decision had come from trust instead of obligation. Samuel stepped closer and promised that their marriage would always be built on mutual respect. He assured Ayana that she would remain free to honor her Apache traditions while sharing life on the ranch. Nantan would always have a home with them, and no one would ever separate their family again. Ayana believed every word because his actions had already spoken louder than promises. Together, they decided to begin their future without wealth or grand celebrations. What mattered most was the honesty they had found in one another despite the prejudice surrounding them. A week later, a simple wedding took place beneath the same cottonwood tree. Only a handful of honest neighbors attended, along with a few members of Ayana's community who wished the couple happiness. There were no expensive decorations or grand speeches, only sincere smiles and heartfelt blessings. As the seasons passed, Samuel and Ayana rebuilt the struggling ranch together through determination and hard work. Their kindness slowly softened old prejudices, bringing respect between settlers and the Apache community. Their story became a lasting reminder across Montana that compassion, courage, and honor could overcome fear, hatred, and generations of misunderstanding.